So now that I've started the recording, um, what if people have started doing here in the chat? If you guys could redo that, now that I've actually started the recording so I can capture that. If you do an here, your attendance in the meeting is just automatically recorded and be included in the meeting. Additionally, as you go through the meeting, because I know we have a couple new people here, you'll see different items put in the group chat, like @topic, @here. Those are just tags included in the meeting minutes as well. If you feel you have an item that you want to add to the meeting minutes, please feel free just to type at item and add that to the chat as well, and that will be recorded. This way we kind of have a cloud sourced meeting minutes. All right, given that, you can see, hopefully, I am currently sharing the agendas for today's meeting. We've got 5 items, potentially some of them longer than others. Let's just get started on them. So first off is the action item review for the actions from last week's meeting. I believe there's only one, and I believe it was actually accomplished by Matt. So we've spent a lot of time this past week, and thank you for everyone. Testing, debugging, kind of get the tech profile work into Volta 2.x, and as part of that, Matt did actually post his images, and we were able to test with those, and those were images that he built based on the TP patches. All right, any comments on that? Great, let's move on to tech profile status. As I said, we spent a lot of time this past week testing, trying out the tech profile patch sets against various configurations, hardware and BBSIM, various different people, and found a good bug that Karthik fixed, along with other bugs that other people fixed. So now comes the question. Do we as a community believe that we're ready to merge those tech profile patches in the master branch? Anybody got an opinion on that?
I'd like to see it merged.
No, I would like to see it merged. It has been tested quite a bit, and then there's other fixes depending on it, so might as well just merge it.
Okay. We don't have a formal vote process, and I don't care. So right now, what we'll do is, if you disagree, now is the time to speak up. If you don't speak up now, then forever hold your peace. All right. Consent to merge. Excellent. Now comes the hard part. Who's going to actually do the merge? And do we have a list of all those patches, and are they all rebased correctly so that they all can go in? Now everybody steps back.
I can see have access to at least the tech profile patch. I can merge it. I don't know whatever are dependent on that one, but at least that one I can merge it.
This is the tech profile patch for which part? I think there's 3 patches or 4 patches.
So that's the big one, the monster patch that we call it.
The monster patch is one of them, yes.
Yeah, that
one. All right, I'll do it this way. Action. Ken, David, and I'm going to drag Matt in here because he built the images, and anybody else will work to merge patch sets today. That does mean there'll probably be a little disruption today as patch sets go in, so if you're pulling master and things don't work, wait 15 minutes and maybe it'll work after that.
Did we want to tag before these patch sets went in, or is that an issue?
We talked about that. That's a good point. We did originally talk about doing a tag before we did the merge, so we could essentially back out or get a version of everything before the tag. After TP is merged, do we believe there will ever be it's essentially the pre-TP versions EOL'd? Opinions on that?
If nobody wants a Volta that's missing TP, then I don't see the point of making a tag there. But maybe I'm asking this because I want to set precedent for the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. What do you think the precedent should be, I guess?
I think the precedent should be probably that we tag at least immediately after we patch something big, but doing a patch before makes sense as a branch starting point. But it sounds like nobody needs the branch, so there's not much of a point of doing the tag.
The tags are cheap too.
Correct.
Let's tag it.
Yeah,
I'm all for it. Can you do that, Zach?
Yes, I can. Let's get a list of repos that I need to tag, and I can put through the patch sets that will create those tags.
Okay. So, all right. Let's work. You and I work after this meeting. We can do it in the background of the Volta meeting, and start gathering that information so we can tag it. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Do we also need a different loyalty agent for technology profile things?
A different OLT agent.
OpenOLT agent.
Oh,
Open loyalty agent, yeah. So
Not the agent.
You mean the adapter, right?
No, he's talking about
no.
that goes on the device. Yeah, it goes on the device itself. I think it's already tech profile aware, I thought.
So I think for a pre-tech profile, we were using a commit right after the 1.6 release, and for tech profile, we should be using the 1.7.
Yeah, and I believe probably some of the other OLTs other than Edge Core still don't have the technology profile things. So it may be beneficial to have the tag.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we will have the tag then. All right. Any other comments on that before we move on?
Question is, do we need a clarification regarding to whether the OpenOLT agent need to be changed or not? After tag, I wonder whether the Girish from Redis can answer that question. But he's not on the call here, right?
I thought the comment I heard in the background was for if you want to use tech profiles, you have to use the 1.7 version of the OpenOLT agent.
Okay, but I don't know whether the OpenOLT agent on the 1.7 is the same as 2.0 or not.
The OpenOLT agent shouldn't have changed.
Seems like not, right?
If it had to change, then something's broken then because it shouldn't.
Okay.
That kind of answer the question?
Kind of. Let's see. Wait, I'll send Girish an email. Just double check.
All right.
Just a question regarding versioning. As we tag things with a version, are we going to keep all relevant repos in lockstep, regardless of whether they're updated. I mean, going with what Sean was saying, should there be a 2.x version of the OpenOLT agent? You know, next week, if we decide to tag something and we've only modified the affinity router, but not the RW core, are we going to tag everything all together? Not that I'm saying we should tag something next week, but if we did, you know, do version numbers start to diverge as we only change a component, or are all version numbers in sync?
I would opine that everything should have, every individual component should have its own version life cycle, and you update things as needed. When you have multiple components, for example, a lot of the things in the VoltaGo repo, which is the affinity router and the RW and RO cores, those would all probably share a version, because most of the versioning is done on a per repo basis. So, but for example, if like one of the adapters didn't change much, there's not a need to arbitrarily bump up its version. Where things get unified is in the Helm charts, and the Helm charts can pull an old version.
That might not have been a good example I used, since those components are together in the core repo. But yeah, a better example would have been the OpenOLT repo versus the VoltaGo repo. If one of them changed, but the other didn't. So I think I'm in agreement with Zach. I kind of like the approach we pursued in SIBA, where every repository has its own version life cycle, and they begin to diverge as things don't change and other things do. I wanted to see if everyone else was on board with that strategy as well.
I agree with that strategy. I was it in SIBA that was agreed to? I thought there was agreed kind of more global, but maybe it was just SIBA.
SIBA is where it started, and I'm trying to get people to be more on board with that. So,
all right,
welcome to the club.
Yeah. Hey, I'm happy to be a me too. All right, so unless there's any objection, we'll go forward with the plan that all repos are versioned independently, and it's via the Helm charts that I called it a unified version in the notes here. Essentially, under one version tag, the BOM is essentially unified. If there is any objections to that, speak now. All right.
So let me sneak in another point alongside of that, and that is, at what point do we take the VoltaGo repository and disaggregate it, because it is like half a dozen things stuck together?
You mean where all the cores are, and OF agent, and everything else?
Yeah, OF agent, affinity router, the cores, maybe a separate shared library repo if there's something that all of those use.
I agree. It needs to be split, or should be split. I guess need is a little strong. It should be split so those things can be versioned independently. The time of that, I don't know, because I don't know the workload it's going to take to do that. And right now, the cycles, who has cycles to do that? Clearly, things like the affinity router in my opinion, belong in their own repo. I guess I'm struggling to see the priority of it amongst the other things that we have to get done.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, it seems like if we were to do it sooner rather than later, we would want to do it before we branch. But if we want to do it later rather than sooner, then it could happen after the stabilization effort is complete. It seems like we should maybe for the duration of the stabilization commit to either doing it or not doing it.
Yeah, again, I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm not convinced that we want to wait as a gating factor before the branch, which puts it to, mostly because I know people are waiting to commit other features to master, which now puts it into post-stabilization brigade territory, in my opinion. That makes sense?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Anybody else have any thoughts, ideas? All right. Let's put it as post-stabilization brigade. So just to be clear, what I mean by that is after the stabilization brigade is ended and all changes in the stabilization branch are merged into master. So we after the unification, then we can consider that as a next step. Be proposed after brigade. I would recommend, and I'll take the action item, to create a JIRA track splitting the source code. All right. Any other thoughts on comments in that area? All right, moving on. Stabilization roadmap. That sounds a little bit scary, doesn't it? All right, so I and some folks from other companies have gotten together, just kind of chatted about. They had some questions about the roadmap for stabilization, and particularly some of the operators have harder deadlines they want to accomplish. To that end, I should have had this already set up. It'll take a little while. To that end, they have been working. I've been consulting on kind of a roadmap that can help them meet their, I'll call it corporate goals, as well as can help drive the stabilization brigade work, hopefully in a more formalized manner. Shoot, I don't have it in my list.
Dave, do you want me to share it?
Yeah, if you have it, that would be great. Why don't you share it? I'm going to end my sharing.
Yeah.
And then you should be able to share.
Mm-hmm. All right, here it is. Can everyone see my screen now?
So
I can.
I can see it. So a lot of this is stuff that we've already talked about in terms of the stabilization brigade, i.e. the stabilization brigades. We're going to create a stabilization branch, and in that we will do testing, patch fix, but no new features. As patches are made to the stabilization brigade, they will be periodically cherry picked into master, and that could happen at a per patch set level, or you could not do it as you do a one patch, also cherry pick, although that could be recommended. You could batch them later as well, but those fixes will flow into the master branch. Ongoing in the master branch will also be development for new features. We know the multiple TCONT work is planned to get going in there, perhaps some of the other multicast work, and that will be continued in the master branch, as well as some work focused from DT on FTTH and FTTP. They're looking to put some of that into the master branch as well. What will, again, just to repeat, the plan is not to push new features from the master branch into the stabilization branch, but it is possible that someone bug fixes something in the master branch, and that would have to be cherry picked to the stabilization branch. Given that fix, again, applies, it's not a new feature fix, it's a fix to some of the core, but it is highly discouraged, not recommended that that be done. Some core dates that we see going forward, and particularly I'll be honest, I think it was particularly from DT that they're looking to do a production readiness release beginning of December, and then get the LTS release at the towards the end of February 2020. So that is kind of the proposal on the table. I think a lot of the process stuff was stuff we've already talked about, kind of agreed upon. I think some of the deadlines or the milestones for the dates, those are new. I think having milestones and dates is beneficial because it drives things. Without that, things can be open-ended and scary. So from a stabilization branch point of view, I think that probably the February 2020 might be a little bit more targeted towards us, because that's when I think the stabilization brigade has to be done by if we're going to meet that. And that gives us a nice end date in terms of, hey, we're not trying to do this forever. So that's a proposal on the table. Any other people want to make comments on that? Carol, did you want to comment on anything else?
Sure. I mean, another comment which is relevant is that we actually quite a bit of backing for this timeline from EdgeCore and Infosys. I think Prashant has joined this call as well from Infosys. I see his name on the list, as well as we've been conversing with Mark Basham and Larry Hall regarding this, and they strongly support it, and they think it's important that we bring a stabilization, that we put real focus on stabilization, and that should also get reflected in their resource commitments, which is the other aspect which we're looking at. Yes, the idea is to have specific timelines, to have higher confidence in resources that are being allocated to stabilization team, and that's where we would like to take that, and that's what we would like to see. And of course, it's dependent on the partners. But yes, we would like to get, which is another topic, but which I wanted to discuss, is we probably should inventorize all of the improvements that we are aware of today, so that we have a rough idea of how much work there is ahead of us. And we'll invite maybe a few to participate in a focus group to submit their initial ideas, and then we will share that, circulate that, and complete that hopefully in the course of next couple of weeks. So another topics that I'm sure Dave would be keen to discuss, and Tuskin from EdgeCore, are the topics of testing ways of work, the ways of working, and test environments, and the other is code commit standards. I think those two other really important topics that we probably should look into fairly soon.
Thank you. Tuskin, any comments from you or from EdgeCore or anyone else on the call?
No, you guys did a good summary. I think we're going to be proposing some changes on how we are doing the development and testing, and we'll do these target teams, working groups. I think we should start very, very quickly if the proposal is accepted. The timeline is very short.
Yep.
Has there been a discussion of the mechanics of the stabilization branch and the increments?
Na reunião da Brigade de Estabilização.
No, in terms of, you mean how often are we going to take the cherry pick changes over?
Yeah, or is each stabilization increment like a 2.1, a 2.2? Is it, are we tagging branches for each of these things, and then we're basically creating a micro release that gets features? That's what
I've not been in a conversation where we kind of talked about it that way. I've been in conversations where we talked about it cherry picking. So from my perspective, and please correct me if other people see this differently, that's just a way to say, look, there's changes, and we're going to cherry pick those changes over. Um, to be honest, I think if we're going to do these incremental updates, cherry picking at a patch set level is going to be the easiest. If you try to batch too many of these, the merge back into master is going to be complicated. If you do it at a patch set level, it'll be easier.
So
I agree. I
can
think
you
that's more surgical. Yeah, go ahead.
can you use an example over here of how this is going to work? So, for example, right now let's take out let's do that first the first arrow down, right? Say we branch out right now, and then we stabilize it. But in the meantime, on the master branch, multicast is coming in, just as an example. Now, can you describe what happens with the stabilization branch and what's coming into master as multicast, the whole patch or 10 patches or whatever? And then when does, explain the rest of the arrows to me.
Okay. So again, and we've had some debate on this internally. So once we branch, the arrows down arrows do not represent a merge of master back into the stabilization branch. You know, a wholesale merge of everything that's in master. The down arrows represent the occasionally, and hopefully not too occasionally, in my opinion, someone actually put a fix into the master branch against the core, a bug fix that really should have been in the stabilization branch and merged the other way, but the world being what it is, some people will put bug fixes into master, and it makes sense to take those bug fixes at a patch set level and pull them back into stabilization. Does that make sense? That part makes sense? I'm not done, but does that part make sense?
Not entirely, because if someone puts a bug fix in the master branch, it could be in a patch set which also has a feature in it. If someone doesn't have the discipline to put the bug fix in the stabilization branch, you may imagine that that person doesn't have this discipline to separate a bug fix from the feature that he was developing. Everything comes in one patch.
Yep, fair point. But if they did that, then it's no longer a cherry pick. It's going to have to be a manual creation of a patch against the stabilization branch that you just had that bug fix. As was alluded to earlier, part of what Stabilization Brigade wants to do is come up with new, I'll call it coding standards, to help prevent those type of things and saying, hey, look, here's what we're going to adhere to. Bug fix is a patch, features a patch. You don't mix and match, or go together. So if someone does a bug fix in master because of lack of discipline, that includes a new feature, that is not going to be cherry picked into stabilization wholesale. There would have to be a new patch, which is just the bug fix that would be brought into stabilization. Is that agreeable?
Okay. Well,
I don't want that scenario, but
no, I get it. I get it. So then merging things into master would have to be closely monitored also, right? Okay.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, so that's that. Then the up arrows represent bug fixes into the stabilization branch that can be, I'm going to use the word cherry pick, but again, sometimes it might be a new patch if it's in an area where new feature developments happen, right? It may not just cherry pick easily, but the idea is, in my opinion, again, as Zach talked about surgically, do it patch set by patch set. When I commit a patch set to stabilization, I also do a cherry pick into master so that the bug fixes get into master. And again, where a bug fix cannot be directly cherry picked into master because master's diverged because of new feature development, that means that bug fix will have to be handcrafted back into master. The problem I see here, to be honest, is if we're doing that, what is the difference of just doing stabilization work in master? And I do struggle with that, I'll be honest, because we're essentially taking every fix and putting it in master as well. And that's a struggle, I'll be honest. But if we want to keep master kind of up to date and not have a horrendous merge at the end, I'm not sure how else to do that, and I'm open to suggestions. So that's how I see it. Does that make sense, Rob?
Kinda.
Okay.
I
I'll
don't
take
see
that.
I don't see how the process of new features coming into master, how we are ensuring the stability of that. Because I would have assumed that you would have talked about test frameworks that get applied to master as well.
And we will, as test frameworks and code standards get developed under the Brigade, my assumption is they're going to apply to master as well. And there's on the agenda at the end here, I got a little time for testing to talk about. I haven't brought in the topic of, we'll call it process and code standards, but that is something that we're going to have to develop and push back to the community as well.
I think this is going to be kind of a challenge because as time goes on, I feel that the two branches, I'm scared that there's going to be a huge parity between the two branches, and the best way to ensure that cherry picks can go seamlessly from, let's say, stabilization branch to the master branch is to make sure that we are running the same test cases and test scope onto both branches. But the master branch, we should also be testing for future, we should also be doing feature testing, but those tests may not be in stabilization branch because those features aren't there, right? So, I mean, yeah, we have to carefully, scope out the testing and test cases between the two branches too, because what if, a cherry pick goes into master that uncovers some other bug onto the master branch? Yeah, we have to.
That's a valid concern. That's a valid concern, but I think it's unavoidable. We do have two separate branches, and unless we tell people to not commit anything into the master branch, the divergence is going to happen. Yes, we can manage the testing cases in different branches, and we have to support different tests in different branches. But I'm more concerned about being able to take the changes from the stabilization branch into the main line. That's a substantial work. It's going to be difficult. I know we said we want to do frequent synchronization between these two branches that takes the code from stabilization to the master, but that's not easy. That's going to be really, really hard.
I agree.
But we have to support testing in both separate branches.
David, one question. So what is the lifetime of stabilization branch? Is master always going to be separate from stabilization branch, or is there going to be some point in future where everything is on master and we don't need stabilization branch anymore?
Yes, there will be a point that the stabilization branch will go away and will be a master. And if we do this right and we develop the right policies and processes and behaviors within the community, we should never need it again. We shouldn't have to redo this effort.
So in the current plan, you see that happening around March 2020, or is that something which is not foreseen yet?
It's based on this timeline, yeah, around somewhere in that area, we should see the stabilization branch go away. And to be honest, it may go away earlier. It will go away once the stabilization brigade says, hey, we've reached our goal. And we need to clearly define that goal, which we haven't yet, in terms of what that means, in terms of the test. We've defined the test suites. We've implemented the automation around those test suites. We've defined the community best practices for coding standards. And we've got hopefully some automated enforcement of that. And we see those behaviors starting to take place. And once those are done, defined, and we feel that they've been accomplished, then the brigade as well as the stabilization branch goes away.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
All right, so Rob, how are you feeling now?
Yeah, well, I would feel really good if you write it down, what we just discussed, and so that it's clear to everyone involved.
Which part do you feel hasn't been put in the notes, I guess?
Oh, I'm not looking at the notes, but
Okay.
but yeah, I'll take a look.
Okay.
And it should March timeframe for the stabilization brigade work to be done sounds a little extreme.
Okay.
I would have hoped that we'll arrive there much sooner.
I'm good with that.
This year, but yeah, okay. So far, everything that I heard, I mean, the visual doesn't seem to express everything that I heard, but that's why I'm insisting on having it written down. So I'll look at the notes from the meeting, and sounds very reasonable to me.
Okay.
David, I had one question based on what I'm reading back in the notes about changes applied to either or both branches. And that is, as someone applies a patch to the stabilization branch, are they going to be applying the same patch to master at that time? Or is there going to be a deferred some number of weeks and then there's a pile of patches that all need to go into master at once?
Yep. I am proposing that we do it on a per patch set, so that when a patch set is applied to the stabilization branch and merged, right after that merge, a cherry pick is made directly into master. That's my proposal. My fear is if you try to do it the other way and batch them up, it's going to make any cherry pick more complicated.
I agree with
you.
I agree with you, David. And so part of my concern of looking at just the visual was that it can easily be interpreted as let features come into master, and then once a feature comes into master, then the stabilization brigade will take all of that and try and stabilize it in the stabilization branch, which is not what we had talked about before. And yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So as long as that becomes clear to everyone in writing, I'm very comfortable with what we just discussed.
Okay.
But this is also going to make us be aware of the fact that there are going to be two branches, and we have to make them both stable. Because at the end of the day, the operators would like to have additional features in the master branch. And
correct.
Those features has to be stable.
That part
like
I agree.
Stabilization branches. So
whenever
people are making commits, I think we are going to have a little bit different rules on when you can commit, how you can commit, how you are going to verify the fact that it is stable enough to take the code into a branch. For this reason, we put together these, or we are proposing to put together these working groups, which I think Trail, David, and I were going to start calling the meetings with a limited number of people to get some ideas and come up with some rules and regulations on how we want to manage this, and how do we manage it in such a way that we don't have to go down to a stabilization 2.0 going forward.
So what is this working group? I missed the working group part.
We hadn't used that term yet.
If I can clarify, it's just we just want to lay down some kind of foundation in these three directions that we want to explore further. So one is the full scope of work. The other one is testing practices, and the other one is code commit standards. So these three areas is where we would like to explore this a little bit further, but we first would like to keep it a narrow table with people that contributed to the brigade most so far. And then we will share these results with everyone else and let anyone else add to that, rather than just, let's say, spending one of our weekly sessions just running one of these sessions. We just want to hold it in a smaller circle and then socialize and amend and take everybody's input into that at the next session, for example. just to save time and just to streamline this activity.
So the idea is, does that make sense, Taras?
Oh, yeah, as long as you're comfortable with it.
Yeah. The idea is that trying to do everything by committee in the full community just is not as efficient as it could be. So if we get smaller teams to kind of come up with a proposal that can be brought back to the community and drive it through there. And I think the hard part's going to be is, you talked about coding standards across, when you can commit, right? You can't commit code until you also include a unit test, for example. Rules such as that. How do you enforce that in the community? Create automated checks and Jenkins to do that, and how's the community going to respond to those type of things? Because we are talking about putting a little bit more formalization around some of this stuff in order to keep master branch stable once the brigade goes away. So that's going to be an interesting cultural change, if you will. Any other comments? All right. Please feel free to send to the email list any items, discussions, comments, thoughts you have after the meeting in this area, and we can continue on that discussion on the discuss list, as well as we can create an action or a line item for it in next week's agenda. All right. Moving on then. Stop sharing. I'll go back to the agenda. The last item on the agenda was really talking about, where were we? Outstanding issues. We got two more items. Outstanding issues before we branch. So we know we're going to do the TP, bring the TP stuff in before the branch. So Matt joined. We also had, Matt, I think here was your event patch we had agreed to put in before the branch. Is that correct?
Event patch. Was this the Pi Volta Protos change for the new event model?
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I believe it's that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's where it fits. If it's fitting in with the new Protos, then that's where it naturally needs to go. I was going to say that just in general, before any of these big ones start getting merged in, that we tag 2.0.1.
Yep. Oh yeah, I think we had that kind of discussion before you joined. We're going to tag the source code, put in the TP merges, and then any other patch sets, hopefully that we discover here that should be before the branch, and then we're going to create the branch. So right now, when I say patch sets before the branch, I'm really talking about patch sets that are doing significant changes. They're not bug fixes. They're essentially new feature development that we need before the branch. And so the question to the community is, other than TP and the event model changes, what other patch sets are we aware of that we think we should merge before the branch?
It looks like the fix to the packet drop and those streaming call errors got merged this morning. I just tested it real quick too, and so that was a big important one too, because we weren't getting successful pass rate with the test with that. So that's a good merge. So I don't see anything else that is outstanding, at least in terms of stabilization. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Okay, Matt, how much work is it to get the event model change patch pushed in?
I mean, nothing really other than just, merging in. There's a Pi Volta change and an ONU change. I haven't tested these, but again, like with any new patch set, it's time and effort to test each one of them fully end to end.
All right. Before it's merged, it'd be nice to have that end-to-end
Hey,
test.
David.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
David. Hey, Karthik. Do you want to wait for Kent's patch? Should be getting in this week. That's an important one.
Right, but again, I'm not talking. Which patch are you talking, I guess, from Kent?
The one that actually fixes the case, the rare case of subscribe not reaching the core, which is starting late, or if you restart the core, it won't work. So, I mean, those conditions. That's an AF router change.
Oh yeah, that one. The bouncing of the API server needing to be done. That one, I don't think there's even a commit for it.
Yeah, we have an internal patch, but Kent is actually working on a better version of it.
Right, but that I've been looking at as a bug fix, not as a new feature, and so I'm kind of okay with that going after the branch. It does mean you have to cherry pick, but there's not going to be much diversion at that point anyway.
What branch are you talking about? Is it a release branch you're talking about?
Creating the stabilization branch. So we're going to create a working branch for stabilization. And basically the point.
Okay, that should be
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that one I don't see as a gating for stabilization.
Yeah, I mean, supposed to be stable. Yeah, we could always rebase it.
Yeah. So the question is, are there any new features that we need before we do the stabilization? I think it's only the one event structure patch or event model patch and the TP.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's going to be some other things that'll come up after the branch is cut. For example, some of the PyVolta history that's in 1.x has not made its way into 2.x at all. So that, I mean, that probably, like you said, could just be considered bug fix, really just keeping current. Yeah,
Okay.
other than that, it's really just parity. It'll be just parity with 1.x issues.
Okay. Is the model patch set, it's been submitted? It just needs tested?
The model in the protos is already in protos and in pip, so that it's out there, the protos itself. The change to PyVolta and the ONU adapter itself to make use of those are still outstanding, and have not been tested by me at least.
Okay. So we need someone to test that, because that's not going to be, is that testable through the BBSim?
Probably not.
Okay. This is the OpenOLT adapter.
OpenOLT, I think, already has this change from what somebody had said last week. This is for the ONU.
Oh, sorry, the OpenONU adapter, right.
Hey, Matt. Hey, did you change anything yesterday in your TP test analysis? OLT or anything, ONU?
There have been a couple of changes merged in from OLT. One overnight that was related to, I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
Yesterday I saw a weird issue. It's not related.
Wait. We're getting off topic. Off topic. Let's bring the train back on the tracks. Let's finish this one first. We need to just go there. So the OpenONU testing, we need someone to take that up who, I guess, has hardware. They need the hardware, Matt, you think, to test this, because it can't be tested via BBSim?
Yeah, I'm just not sure if BBSim responds to the particular OMCI queries that a typical real ONU would. I could be wrong, but I've noticed that just when running BBSim, the periodic polling that it does for certain monitoring-related items will fail, whereas on a real ONU they don't.
Can we get someone with the real ONU and a setup to verify this patch set? Please? I'll buy them a beer at Open ONF Connect. Okay.
Now you're talking.
I'll chip in for the second one.
So Matt,
Okay, Sam.
ONF pods are still not in a place where we can do this testing, unfortunately. So it'll have to be someone from the community for this week at least.
Okay. Okay, who's got the pitch? Send me the pitch. I'll get it done in Taiwan.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that comment.
This is Taskin. Who's got the patch? If you guys can send it to me, I'll get it tested in Taiwan.
Matt, can you forward that?
Not just it.
I mean, the patches are in review for PyVolta and OpenONU.
Okay. Matt, send me some details on how which patch to apply, where to apply. And give me some instruction on how to test it.
Okay. I mean, just so clear, I didn't author these, so I can't attest to their quality or how to test them. I just know of them because I see everything that comes into ONU. So I can tell you what they are. As to whether they do what they really should or not, that really gets into what the the author and the intended design is.
Okay. Just some of the patches, I'll get somebody to contact the authors. We'll get some details on how to test it.
Thanks, Taskin.
Ashwaya? Ashwaya? I don't know what it is. So, Matt, do you think the DB can do some of those?
Do I think that BBSim can?
No, the DVL, the Austin.
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, anybody who has hardware can do this. It's just, people who have hardware are few and far between, it seems. There's many people who want to do this work. There are like 3 people who have hardware, which defies all reason.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't hold back. No, it's just ridiculous. We're trying to do stuff, and it comes to the same 3 people. So, I mean, if everyone wants to pony up their money to do work, they need to pony up money for hardware. It's a lot cheaper than people.
Hello?
Yep. I'm going to carry that comment over to the next section on testing as well. All right. Any other comments on that then? As soon as we get those patches tested, we can look to create a branch. So that's kind of the gating factor right now. All right. Moving on with 5 minutes, which is nowhere near long enough to take on the next topic. First item, we need more people with hardware to test, i.e. more people should purchase hardware. There you go. That fair enough, Matt?
Yes.
I agree. I agree.
We want this to be successful. Yes.
Maybe EdgeCore should donate more. Sorry.
Oh, careful there, Sean.
No, actually,
or I could say AT&T could open up a lab so people could test in that. But hey.
Well, Ashwaya,
I think it's not really that far-fetched idea. We can make a portion of the lab open up to the individual users, so that if they want to go down commit, they have to run the test cases on the test bed. Let me think about the logistics on this one. Okay. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to be working on this one, but I'm looking at the attendees for this meeting. There's 35 people. So there is going to be a good number of people who can support this.
Yeah, the problem you run into, though, is often you have to reboot the ONTs or pop the fiber on them. So there has to be somebody really available to do physical work that doesn't get annoyed at it like Matt would.
Yes.
Yeah. If you need to physically touch the machine, I can't do it. But I think we can make
the work we do here. I see people touching machines
pretty regularly,
often during the day, not just like once a day. I'm talking like 10 times a day.
But the other thing to consider too is if multiple voltages are competing.
Okay, then come and buy my hardware. I can't help you. Sorry. I'm hoping that maybe we can reduce the number of that you need to touch the physical machine to do the testing. If we can eliminate half of those needs, I mean, if we can test it without physically accessing the device, maybe we should just make that available to the community.
So I think
everybody's.
Yeah, I think we have a general problem that the community, there's not enough hardware spread throughout the community that
Right.
help facilitate this help facilitate building the system in a more robust as well as faster way, and that needs to be addressed somehow. We have 2 minutes left. That's nowhere near enough time to even tackle item 5 here on the agenda, so I'm not even going to try. We've been late ending our meeting, which has caused problems for the Volta meeting. So I'm going to end it here and we carry over the testing topic until next meeting. Topic to next meeting. So on that, I'm going to close it unless there's anybody else who has a comment. Yeah, unless anybody else has a comment.
Oh, sorry. Just one last thing. Do you really need that Protos thing in the stabilization branch? Because if we don't know what the purpose is, or could we branch out now right after the TP stuff has merged? Because we delayed TP merging last week.
Yep.
Because you wanted more testing. Now it's one more week of wanting somebody to test the Proto stuff, right? Is it absolutely essential?
Yeah, I get the comment, get the question. If we want, I guess if we either do it now, do the TP stuff, merge it and branch, and don't merge the event model stuff and treat that as a patch set later, or we do testing before we merge it. Those are kind of the options. If we want a stabilization branch, there's cost to it. Do we have to wait a week? No, it depends when we can get the testing on it done and get it verified. When we did patch verification on the TP stuff this week, we found some important issues that needed to be fixed before the TP stuff was merged. And that's possible that it'll happen with this patch as well. I'm really conscious of running to the next meeting because it is a whole.
Great, thank you. Bye.
Let's take it on the discuss list. All right, thanks guys. Bye.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.